I have type 1 diabetes. What that is it's when your immune system realizes that the beta cells in your pancreas are actually foreign entities, and so your immune system destroys those cells, and then those are what produce insulin naturally in your body. So you're not able to produce insulin naturally anymore.
So I'm a type 1 diabetic. I originally started out using insulin because our bodies don't make any insulin, which is what we need to basically use all of our food that we eat. So if we don't eat if we don't take our insulin, we can't use our food, and it kind of just sits in our body and makes us feel like crap.
I was 7 years old, and I was getting really thin, and you could see my ribs and stuff, and my sister was worried because she was like, wow, I can see your bones coming out of you, and then and my mom was like, yeah, something's kind of wrong, and I was like, this is all I know, so I don't think I'm sick. And then my mom had a dream that I was diabetic, and so she called the doctor, and she was like, oh, what are the symptoms of diabetes? I think my daughter has it, and they were like, oh yeah, dizziness and stuff, if you haven't eaten, and getting really skinny, being really thirsty a lot, and then my mom came in one day and was just like, so I think you're diabetic, so we're just gonna go to the hospital and just find out. And I was like, what's diabetes? I don't know what that is. So we went there, and then my blood sugar was either 500 or 600. I don't remember the exact number. And then the doctor came in and was like, okay, so here's the thing. You're diabetic, so you're gonna have to take insulin for the rest of your life. When I was in elementary school and middle school and high school, I was the only one, and in elementary school specifically, because I was the only one, I was kind of the example for the rest of the school, this is what diabetes is, this is how you talk to someone with diabetes, you don't treat them any different because they're just like you, they just take insulin, and I never have anyone to talk to about diabetes. It's I don't know, I always talk to my friends and I'm like, oh, my blood sugar was low, or oh, my blood sugar's high and no matter what I do, it won't go down, and but they don't get it the same way, as another diabetic. Everyone's watching out to be oh, is she okay? It's more I'm just on my own, living life, as the only person that knows I'm diabetic, really. So it's kind of tough in that sense. Also, I'm just so involved on campus all the time that I don't have time to really take care of my diabetes as much as I should.
I was diagnosed February 29th of 2014. Oh no, it's 2012, sorry, because it's a leap year. The way that I treat it is through an insulin pump therapy, and so I have a constant little piece of technology that's sitting on my side that is constantly pushing insulin into me. It's definitely a lot different because I had those 15 years where I knew what it was like without it. So I was able to eat things without having to be concerned about my blood sugar, how much it would affect my blood sugar, things like that. I could eat 10 slices of cake and I wouldn't feel bad about it, but now I have to only eat 9. It makes a lot of the physical things that I do a little bit harder. So I don't want it to be a level blood sugar when I'm doing something like a show, because then that runs a risk of it going lower and me having to forget a line because I'm a lot more spacey when I'm low versus when I'm high. And so I do a lot of prevention in that regard, which isn't healthy. So it's a really weird equilibrium of unhealthy things versus healthy things that I have to do to be able to function in a non-type 1 diabetic world. Working with the play, it's interesting because there are times when I'm extremely physically active on the stage, and then there are times where I'm not at all. And so it makes it very hard to know exactly where to keep my blood sugar. And so I typically run my blood sugar high because I don't want to risk it going low in the show, because if it were to go low, typically my most common symptoms are lightheadedness and forgetfulness and just spaciness, which would not be good for me to be on stage trying to do a song or do a scene when I'm completely spacing out.
I was diagnosed when I was 11, so it was 15-ish years ago. My mom started to notice that I wasn't eating well, I wasn't feeling well, and we had some doctors in the family that kind of said, you should take her in. I think so. It's affected my entire life. You know, I think I would be a completely different person had I not been diagnosed. It really puts a lot on you as a kid. You have to be aware of things that kids aren't aware of at that age. I mean, I was 11, you know, telling me I can't have birthday cake anymore is a hard thing. But it makes you very aware of your body. It makes you aware of, you know, being healthy. I think I'm in my profession actually because of, you know, my diabetes. I think it makes me a better nurse. It makes me a better adult in general. Not saying that it's easy, but it definitely challenges me to make sure I'm doing those things I need to. College is especially hard. Most people say college is the hard part. You lose you lose your family support, and that becomes a whole another thing. It really makes you grow up, and it's not. You don't have that support you have when you're at home, and I didn't really know any other diabetics on campus. It's not an easy. It's not something you reach out to people with a lot. And, you know, you happen to see someone with a pump cord hanging out of the back of their pocket, and you kind of get excited because it's someone that you can relate with. As I've grown up, I really haven't had anyone that can share that burden with me of having that responsibility and having that, oh, you can't do that. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a very, I find that people that aren't very aware of diabetes don't relate very well. Not that they can't understand, but having something that is on your mind 24 hours a day, all day, every day, was tough in college. It really was.
Students with type 1 diabetes typically have a few years to get it under control and to learn how to manage it, and then when they go away to college, sort of unconsciously decide that they don't want to have a chronic illness. They don't want to be different. They don't want to have to manage this. So oftentimes in the first year or two, we'll see their diabetes be a little bit less controlled than they have been when they were home and under their parents' care and watchful eye. And in other times I've seen students really take control and kind of own how to manage their diabetes when they get to campus. I think it does impact people. Some people are more self-conscious about testing in public or wearing a monitor or having a conversation with their friends if they're not somebody who could safely go out drinking or just kind of binge eating and those kinds of things. So a lot of the social life it impacts. For uncontrolled long-term damage, it's a multi-system issue because the damage can be to kidneys, where the kidneys won't work as well. It can be to the lining of the vessel, so it can lead to heart disease. It can lead to peripheral vascular disease. You can have trouble with the back of the eye. The retina can have some deterioration. So having consistently high blood sugars for long periods of time affect every system of the body.